synthesizers, groove boxes. Visit Patchwerks in Seattle and online at patchwerks.com.
Hello. How's it going? Just had to wait for that camera to get in focus. Hi, I'm Matthew from Patchwerks, and we're back with another episode of Patchwerks Live, the synthesizer and effects show that we put on every Friday at 3 o'clock here from Patchwerks in our video studio. Today, I had some time, and I revisited a piece of gear that also got a bit of an update, a bit of a makeover, and that is the Polyend Tracker. And the makeover that it got, which albeit a minor one, but if you were familiar with it during its release period, it now has the same finish and it's the same thickness, I believe, as the Polyend Play. So it actually is a very similar build to the Polyend Play build, which is a welcome thing too, because I thought the build was great before, but the Polyend Play build is very nice too. So Polyend Tracker is just a little bit different looking, and it looks awesome, I think. So I started digging into it. It'd been a little while since I had played on the Polyend Tracker, just personally, because there's only so much time for all the millions of boxes that you can play with. And I paired it with my OP1 Field because, of course, it's a portable synthesizer, so it's so easy for me to pair it with everything because I can just grab it and throw it on the table. And I haven't sampled anything into the Polyend Tracker yet, but I did start writing some music before this stream started. And I do want to tell you a little bit about the Polyend Tracker before I just hit play and start digging into a little bit of music production. And I want to mention its features and what you can expect from it and the kind of workflow and what is a tracker. We can talk about what a tracker is too. So Polyend Tracker is an 8-track sample player and synthesizer. It does granular synthesis and it can do single cycle waveforms. Its synthesis is all based on samples, so it doesn't have some sort of oscillator engine in it in the same fashion you would think of in like a virtual analog synthesizer, but it's using samples as its engine. The granular part is more like a wavetable synthesizer. It can do polyphony as well, so you can actually play this polyphonically on one sample. So it's a very powerful synthesizer. If you do play something polyphonically, you can't technically play a polyphonic chord on one track. What it will do is it will just put those notes across the 8 tracks if you're doing an 8-voiced chord. So it does MIDI as well. It has some really great MIDI features, including MIDI chords, which I think are awesome for music production. If you're programming, putting in chords in electronic music or in hardware can be a tedious task, and having a MIDI chord function is really useful. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick. You go into Instrument, or do I go into Effects? I think we go into we go into Instrument, and here we go. There's our MIDI channels, and at the very, if I choose a MIDI channel, I can go into Note, or forgive me as I dig through this. There it is, MIDI chord in my Effects1 section. Sorry, it took me a minute to find it. There's a lot. This thing does a ton. They call it the Polyend Tracker Music Production Workstation, and it is a workstation. It samples, like the OP1, it actually has a built-in radio as well. And you can choose, and it will auto-tune to channels, and it sounds great. So if you have just this and you had no samples, you could just sample the radio and make a project from scratch with no samples included. But it does come with a plethora of fantastic sounding samples, and that is what I used so far for my production. So I will just hit play real quick so you can just hear the quality that this machine can bring. So it sounds big. You can customize your effects. So you can change up your reverb and your delay. Of course, we'd want that and expect that, so I'm glad that that is included in the Polyend Tracker. But if you want to have huge reverbs, you can do that. And if you want to have huge delays, you can do that as well. You can have them tempo synced. It has latency control for delays as well when you're using it as a clocked source, or you're clocking it from another source, it will figure out the latency for you for the delays so that it works perfectly. So really cool. a lot of fun to play with, but if you don't know how to use trackers, you would immediately be incredibly lost on this thing. So let's talk a little bit about how trackers work. It's pretty common that people say with trackers that they compare it to like an Excel spreadsheet. So I expanded our perspective right here, and I do realize it's probably kind of hard to see because even at its max brightness, it's just hard. Let me see if I can turn up something on my camera. There we go. I'm gonna make it real bright. The OP1's just gonna kind of vanish just so you can see the screen for a minute. And yeah, let me actually, we'll zoom in on it too. Really help you out. There we go. Okay. Not the lighting I like to do, but effective. So here it is. We have these rows here. We have instruments. This is our note value. That's why it says C5. The next one over is an instrument. And then the next section over is FX1 and FX2. And actually, if you look right here, this is the same layout as this. Note, instrument, FX1, FX2. What it means by FX1 and FX2 is different sequencer effects. So it's not like an actual effect. You do tell it, the sequencer, to send this step value to a delay, or send the step value to a reverb, or change the note, or reverse the sample and all that, but that's kind of how this functions. And it is very similar to working on an Electron box or any other sequencer that allows you to do per step sequencing, because truth be said, the Electron workflow and so many other workflows that are similar to that parameter locking workflow, they're all stemmed from the tracker workflow. And trackers were originally developed to produce computer-made music, but for games, typically. And they were just small applications that had some very simple synthesis, and you had to do a lot of tricks to get things like delay and chords because they weren't polyphonic. So you would use these really fast arpeggios, and that would generate a chord sound for you. And if you listen to, old Nintendo music, and of course all the indie platforms, they use a lot of tracker style sounds as well. So it's a very current gen thing to do, to play with trackers. Renoise is another really popular tracker. You may have also heard of the Dirty Wave M8 tracker. So trackers are they're kind of coming back right now, and I'm happy to see it because I think they're super fun. One of the advantages of trackers versus having a per lane view sequencer like most sequencers are, SH01 style sequencers, Roland style sequencers, Electron style sequencers, those sequencers all let you view one track at a time and just one lane at a time. Now that's an advantage for paying attention to what you're working, but it's not an advantage when you're trying to compare what data you have on from one track to another. Trackers have that advantage. So here on the Polyend Tracker, we can view all the data up to about 16 steps at a time. Well, I guess 15 steps. We can view 15 steps of data at a time, all their note values, what instrument is there, and what effects values have been assigned to those steps. We can just see it and we know what it is. And we can audition it with the preview button, which will audition the row that we're on. There's nothing on that row. So if I go down to this row and select this, you can hear I have a bass note there. You can also hold shift and hit play, and we'll play it from this section, which I think is great. Something I would like to see on more sequencers is being able to just play from a selection. So I could technically like highlight this right here and just hit play. I'm sorry, and hit shift and play. Let me go do it again. I need to be in record mode, I believe, for that. Record, shift. See if we can just have it do it for this section. Oh, someone will have to remind me of the key press to do that. But if you want to play from this moment in time forward, you can do shift plus play, which is something I find incredibly useful, and I do it all the time. The other key presses of playing just that segment, I wish I could remember how to do that. There's so many shortcuts that you need to learn when you're learning a new Groovebox, especially one that is a complete workstation. So I will forgive myself for not knowing every single key command. But I do love the way that this synthesizer sounds, and I love that it's a sampler. So samplers are some of my favorite devices to play with. And like I said, we have the OP1 hooked up to it. So we can just go right into sample recorder. There's our level. It does sample in mono. Let's see. Let's go back to our pattern real quick. Let's get that OP1 note because it sounds nice over this production. Go back in my sample recorder. I'm just gonna hit record. We'll let it ring out. I like that it shows you the waveform. And then it does an auto edit, which is really cool. And it guessed pretty good. I'm assuming that it guessed at a 0 crossing. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what we would like. Did I see bubbly in there? What's going on over here? I know that if I see the word bubbly in the chat, there's got to be Calderwood every time. What's up? Yeah, we love the bubbly. I do need some bubbly. Where's my bubbly? Okay, it's not up here. Disappointing. All right, we can preview our sample here. Now it sounds different than what we just played, and that's because what we heard was a line through stereo signal. OP1 field is incredibly stereo. They reworked all of their synthesis engines, so they're all in stereo. All of their effects are in stereo now. All of their sample is in stereo. Of course, you can play mono samples, but they can do stereo sampling now, and when it samples, it will sample in stereo. So I did sample into this and it got downsampled down to mono, so it's a completely different sound, but after I add some stereo reverb, which the Polyend Tracker can provide, it will sound full once again. I think it sounds cool. I'm gonna take that crop that we got, it seems to work for me, I'm gonna hit yes. So it brings up this cute little keyboard, which you can learn to type on, which I haven't, because it's just, I don't know. It's hard for me. I like to just use the arrows. That's just natural for me. So I'm gonna use the arrows here. Or you can also just hit auto name, and why not do that? Well-made slave? Whoa. Dang, Polyend. All right. Longing donkey? Calculator report. I'll take that. It's giving me some weird names. All right. Save and load. All right. The other producer here off screen can't handle this at all. He can't handle it. All right. Calculator report is now one of my instruments. What a great report, I'm sure. Let's go to track 6. I can hold shift and hit home, and it's going to bring me right to the top of track 6. Shortcuts like that are going to be really important that you learn them and memorize them with the Polyend Tracker. I have this track set up as 128 steps, and that's a really long ways to go when you are at the bottom, or in the middle, I should say, because at the bottom you can just scroll around. But fortunately, the scroll wheel, when you're not in record mode, because if you're in record mode, it's going to alter a value, but if you're not in record mode, you can fly across all the numbers here, across your grid of your sequencer. So that's really nice. You just move it real quick. It's got one of those exponential curves on it, so it just like it knows that you did it real fast, and it just shoots you across, which is nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and put down another instrument. We go into record mode, we select instrument, which is the second row as you can see. If I want, we can look at all of our tracks at the same time by holding pattern and hitting note. And then we can still just jump through those like this. And it also tells you up here, we're at playing calculator report. And I'm gonna put down a note. I can go into, if we want, we can audition a couple notes. Here's that polyphony I was talking about. I think that's the one I did. Yeah, that's it. All right, I'm gonna go into the instrument parameters, go into its effects, and we're gonna turn up its delay. Maybe we'll give it some, I mean, I meant to say turn up the reverb, but we'll do both delay and reverb. Make this be like an emotional chord stab. We can't overdrive it. It's not gonna sound great to do that. Or maybe it will. Oh, what's wrong about that? It sounded pretty good. Okay, what else do I want to do? I kind of want to change the actual sound of my reverb. I'm going into my master effects. See the reverb by default. Everybody does this. Every Groovebox manufacturer on the planet starts with these like 50-50, you know, mid-range reverb, mid delay. But we all want really big reverbs, I think, just to play with at first. So let's turn up the size. I don't need 50 pre-delay. Definitely sounds better. Let's check out this delay. We can have the delay on ping pong. I love ping pong. Let's turn the delay on tempo sync. So now it's synced to the clock. Let's give it some more feedback. It's going real slow. Sounds kind of nice. We can filter that. Okay, so we've got a sound we think is okay. Just put it there for starters. Might be a little too much delay turned on. We'll add some more notes. Ooh, that one's sounding a little sour in that spot. Maybe we don't want it on 16. I think we actually want it on 17. Hit delete when we're in record mode to delete it. Let's go back to the top. I feel like I want it. I heard it in my head. There is also performance mode, much like the Polyend Tracker. We can select what we want to have be a part of it. Can go like this. You can set these values too. So I think it's what? Shift and turn them? No. We're in record mode. I want it. How do I? Oh, that's it. Okay. Just hit record. All right, so we'll turn up. We'll have one that's like plus 80 delay. Sample position? No. Plus 80 reverb. So we're going to create some performance effects. Sample playback. This is a good one. So we could do sample playback in reverse. And We can do a low pass filter that we can just jump to. I don't know how good that one's gonna sound. Okay, that's cool. Let's do a high pass filter version. Okay, maybe that one's a bit much. 80 might, wait. Okay, and then we'll do like an octave down, and we'll do an octave up, and we'll do a fifth. Yeah. I think panning and volume aren't going to be as useful. Out of record mode. See this how they stayed there? So now I can select those steps, and those will be the performance effects. This is how you select what track you're going to have be processed that way, just like the Polyend Play. Polyend Play got all its inspiration from this box here. There's that low pass filter. Now we know. It's clipping. We love clipping. Let's check out this bandpass. That sounds pretty good. Reverse the sample. So it's still using that. I think there's... So unlike the Polyend Play, this I just learned, I didn't know this, but unlike the Polyend Play, the Polyend Tracker, when you go into performance mode and you set something in the performance mode, it actually latches to that. So you can leave and go into your track itself and do whatever you want to do there. But that's different. In the Polyend Play, when you're in the performance mode and you're using all its performance effects, and albeit there is a lot more performance effects on the Polyend Play than there is in the Polyend Tracker, but they are totally different devices and you want to use them for different things, I think. But on the Polyend Play, when you're in the performance mode, you only can do performance effects in the performance mode. When you leave performance mode, it unlatches them. So they're meant to just be used. Like you make a track in the Polyend Play, go into performance mode, and you play your track out that way, because it has more of an arranger vibe to it. Even though this has a really powerful arranger as well, but this one, you have a little more flexibility. In general, on the Tracker, you have more flexibility, I would say, than on the Polyend Play in terms of how you can manipulate sounds. The Play has a completely different function. It's very cool and very different, and actually is meant to complement this. There's a MIDI config built into the Polyend Play that says if you connect this to the Polyend Play, that they will just sync its CC values naturally. It already has it all pre-done for you, but you can use the Polyend Tracker as a synthesizer with the Polyend Play. So it like the two of them together kind of make what I think their vision really was. It kind of requires them both. But you don't need them both. But if you have both, you make their like ultimate, the Polyend dream come true. That's what my cat sounds like when he's been hungry for too long. Lots of emotion. I try to keep him hydrated. He refuses. This chat is off the chain. Awesome. So let's see. What else can we look at with the Polyend Tracker here? I think maybe we should try and go to a new pattern. Let's look at the song mode. We don't have a song in here. We haven't used track 8 yet, so there's nothing on there to load up. Let me see. Yeah, we don't need to do anything here because we don't have enough content to actually make any use of this yet, so we'll stay out of there. Maybe what we want to do is try to do another bit of sampling and maybe try and chop that sample up. So let's use the Polyend, or use the OP1 here. Oh. That's what I'm talking about. Do you know if they're bringing any updates soon to the Polyend Tracker? I am not aware of updates coming to the Polyend Tracker right now. I do believe they're bringing updates to the Polyend Play right now. I do think that Polyend's focus is on the Play at the moment, and they have some stuff in the works, like program change. Anything else is actually kind of, I don't know. But I do know that that was something that was okay for me to mention that they're bringing. Because we want program change, and we need program change if we're going to use it with our other boxes, especially if you're pairing it with something like an Octatrack or a Digitact or Syntact or something. You're going to really want program change, or Roland 707, MC101, those kind of things. We need our machines to all move patterns together. So that's going to be a really powerful feature to have to it. This already has that, so that's not an issue. The Polyend Tracker, they fleshed this thing out pretty good. I can't imagine them bringing too much more to it than it already has, other than maybe trying to add some sort of virtual analog synthesizer. Maybe that's out of the scope of their idea for this, but it does have the granular synthesis. So we could take a look at that right now. So you have sample playback, and this is where you kind of like decide what you're gonna do with your audio, because like I said, this is all based on samples. So if we want to use things as a one-shot, you leave it as one-shot. It gives you some really simple parameters for one-shots. There's really not much you can do with one-shots. They're, you play them in reverse, you play them forward, you play with the envelopes with them, and you filter them. That's about what you do with one-shots, and that's kind of their purpose. We have forward looping and backwards looping and ping-ponging, and this are just, you just select this, and it's going to, forward loop is just going to make it go like that, and just keep going like that. Backwards loop, reverse, and ping-pong, back and forth, playing the sample forward and backwards. Forward loop, backwards loop, and ping pong work really well with single cycle waveforms because it turns it into a synthesizer. Then we also have slicing. So slicing and beat slicing, they're the same function. Beat slicing is a transient detection algorithm built into it, and it will look for what it considers a beat. So it's looking for spikes, dynamic peaks in a waveform, and then it's slicing it for you. And then you can go through and play with the slices right here on the keyboard. Maybe we should load a sample up and take a look at that. So let's go sample loader, and I'll move over to the samples. It comes with a lot of fantastic samples and wavetables. Let's load up loops and treble. We can audition them here. Yo! Nice. This is a good one to sample. Okay, or to slice. So I'm going to hit the right arrow to go over to where I want to load this sample into. You have two options. You can do add and add next. If you do add, it's just going to move it there, and it's going to leave this cursor on the spot that you added it to. Here's our RAM. So this is the max memory we can have in our project. We're getting close to it already. I did load a bunch of samples, so that makes sense. But you can also do add next, which will add it to that slot and then move the cursor down for you. So you're going to be using add next the most. Delete unused is a feature that you need to pay attention to. So as you're going through these projects and you're loading a lot of samples in, you may not end up using all the samples that you loaded and then run out of project memory. And the Polyend Tracker will detect samples in your record buffer or in your sample memory buffer that you have not placed in the sequencer, and you can hit delete unused, and it will just remove them and free up your project memory so that you can add new samples, which I think is really important. So I'll hit add next, and it's importing it into the project at 44.1.16. And now I have a new instrument. These are my instruments. So it's not like, you don't think of them as samples, think of them as instruments, because you have different playback methods. And depending on your playback method, they will perform in different ways. So let's go over here. We're on track 8. We're going to go in the instrument tab here, and we'll find our instrument. We can just go into record mode and go like this. But we can also audition them with these pads. And there it is. It's instrument 26. If I hold down instrument, it will actually reveal all the instruments available to me. So let's go into our sample editor. Actually, no, we don't want to edit it. We want sample playback. So the sample editor, let's just talk about it really quick. Sample editor is pretty robust. We even have time stretch beat, time stretch note. So those are the two algorithms. One of them is going to do more of a time stretch beat is going to do a better job preserving the dynamics of your waveform. So it's going to try and keep drums sounding solid. Time stretch note is going to focus more on the melodic content and try and keep things in key and pitch, that their original key and pitch. Whereas the beat one won't do that so much. But there's lots of different choices here. I mean, as you can see, tons. These are permanent effects. So if you want to use something like flanger and chorus, that's not an effect that you'll find playable in here. It's an effect you'll find that you can do to your sample. So we can turn our sample into a sample that has flanger. So I can say select effect, and here it is, and we can preview it first, but it has to like make a copy of it. I had the depth at 1, so it's not doing anything. Let's turn that depth up. See how it jumped all the way up there? I do like that. I don't know about you, I can hear it. The sample I chose, it doesn't demonstrate flanger very well, but it's there. I'm not going to apply flanger. We have an EQ, let's take a look at that. So we have quite a few bands here to play with. Again, you can preview everything. A smoother, wavetable smoother. So this will take a sample and turn it into a wavetable. Although a sample already is a wavetable, so to speak, but this makes it a better wavetable for the Polyend Tracker to play back. Fade in, fade out, so this is just sample management, bit crusher and chorus, overdrive, and then you can permanently reverse samples, but you don't need to reverse a sample because you can actually reverse a sample through playback on the sequencer. But if you didn't want to waste an FX step on a sample and you were okay with permanently reversing your sample, this is where you would do that so that you could play samples in reverse and not have to use one of your effects lanes, because you do only get 2 effects lanes per step. So cool. This is with the sample editor. It's pretty simple, to be fair, but it has lots of choices. So here's sample playback. We can go down to slice, and here's where you literally add slices. It does have auto slice, so I can hit auto slice. This actually rewrite your current slices. I don't have any slices, so it doesn't really matter. So it tried to auto detect the slices. We can go down to beat slice. Now beat slice used our auto slice, but it gave us this. That first one doesn't have anything on it, so I can remove it. Now it just plays the next one. I can remove that one. This will kind of be your workflow here. You can adjust the samples too, or the slices, and see it turned it red so you can move it. I know it's hard for you to see, but I'll just move us. You can see it moving, right? I hope. Y'all folks at home or at work on the clock watching synth TV, gonna get in trouble. Yeah, so does exactly what you would expect it to do for a slicer. So we can take this slice. I don't need it to do any more slicing than it does. We'll leave it on beat slice. The reason why we want to use it on beat slice is because I want this keyboard layout so I could manually put stuff in. If I had like a breakbeat in here, I could play my breakbeats like this, which is great. So we can leave here, go into our pattern. That's our sample playback selection will be saved with it. Go into our pattern here, and now we have the ability to play back our sample slices. Let me see, it should be called slice. There it is. So you go to effects 1, you select slice, and this is going to choose the sound from those slices. Kind of cool, right? It all lights up like this, gives you a little light show. Polyend was thinking of me when they did that because I like looking at lights. But yeah, the Polyend Tracker is a lot of fun. I recommend that you do a little bit of manual reading to really understand the workflow on it, because trackers can be a bit intimidating for people, but they're they're actually really friendly to you, and friendly in terms of like how quickly they can get music up and running. For instance, if I go to pattern 2, we have nothing on pattern 2. I'll select this whole track, shift, press up, whole track is selected. I can go over to this fill feature here, and we can choose a way to fill it. We could use Euclidean and use events. Euclidean sequencing uses a set number of steps and a set number of events, and it tries its best to make them all evenly spaced with each other. And it creates these cool rhythms when you use odd time steps and odd time events. It'll try its best, but it'll just create a nice rhythm. So we could do a Euclidean event thing, or we could do completely random and fill 50% of the density. And there's a lot of other choices. Like we could do each. We could say every 4 steps. Like say we were doing some sort of like techno track, right? We want to do every 4 steps. And we could choose what we want it to do. I want it to, are we on instrument? There we go. Now that we're on instrument, that's what I really wanted. We're on instrument. Do each 4 steps. We'll get these kick drums in here. Here's where I select my instrument. We'll do that kick that I had, and I'll hit fill. So here we go. That's how quick I can get. This is a 32-step sequence. I just filled it with kicks. We can go over here, hit shift up. We can hit fill again and go, okay, every 3 steps or every 5 steps or 6. Let's do every 5 steps. Let's get this closed hat and fill it up. Makes a cool rhythm right off the bat. Let's do it again here. Fill. Let's do Euclidean. Let's do it on like some sort of snare sound. Let's give it a few events. I'm going to delete that first event. I don't want it hitting on the 1. I'm also going to do that here. Copy this one and put it right here. Shift paste. Whoa, that sucks. Let's not do that. Let's change those amount of events. Go down to like 3 events, 4 events. No, 3. It's still giving me too many. Let me delete them first. There we go. 3 events across the 32 steps. This one I don't want on the 1. Like I said, I'll copy it. We'll put it after this kick. Paste. Delete this one. Now here's an actual rhythm we could use. I can go over to our next. If we're in note mode, these are those slices. Because we're on that instrument. Remember I used the beat fill or the beat slice? So we want to make some techno. Instrument parameters, filter. Filter, low pass. Instrument parameters, go over to the LFO. It's on the panning. We don't want it on the panning. That's what we want. Okay, so we have like a beat that we generated in like a matter of seconds. Kind of like the Polyend Play. How the Polyend Play can just generate a beat really, really quickly. You can get some really fast IDM made on here because you can do some like intelligent fills where you're spacing the steps out using the fill conditions, the fill parameter, and just doing note offsets. Like if you loaded a piano sample in here, if you loaded a 88 key piano sample in here and then sliced it so that you had like 4 octaves of notes, then you would have a beautiful multi-sample piano in your Polyend Tracker. And you could use all 8 tracks and create, and the steps that you're not using, put like drums, but you can create these beautiful piano pieces on here. Like that's something the Polyend Tracker can do. It's also something the Polyend Play can do if you're interested in the Polyend Play, which I think is really cool. Let's see, what else do I want to do here? Let's get some other sounds. So we'll go. Yeah. Let's go to this instrument parameter here. We're looking at our kick. It's pretty strong. Let's get the volume on the kick down a little bit. Actually, I don't need to turn the volume on the kick. I have a mix. So there is a full mixer here. Along, you can see these are our effects mix. So we can actually turn the effects mix up. We can turn the dry, wet up or down. So we could do some really interesting stuff here. We also do have our line input. And I do like the graphic they used. It looks like it's sunken in. It's kind of cool. So I have the line in turned on. And it's in stereo. Thank the good Lord. So yeah, in our mixer here, I can turn this down, hold it. Let's bring our kick down a little bit. I believe there is a compressor too. There's our limiter. It does have sidechain as well. Doesn't have a visual representation. Oh, it does. Never mind, I'm sorry. Way over compressing. Is there a gain adjustment? I guess you just turn the master volume up? Okay. Bass boost, here we go. Thump. Oh, there's that low end. That's cool. Let's turn up the high end here. Or the mids. It's pretty fun. Not gonna lie, it's a pretty fun instrument. it is really fast. Once you understand the fill functions, it's just really, really quick to get music going. And the auto slicing makes slicing like super easy. And auto slicing is something that I want to see on like every sampler, because it just gives you a place to start from and to work from, because it just goes much faster once those slice points are in. Even if they're inaccurate, just to have them in there for you is really nice. It's something I like to do on the Octatrack. I'll auto slice like 16 or 32 slices in a large sample, and then I'll go in and just adjust the slices to meet, but it saves me from having to hit the add slice, find point, add slice. And this has that feature, and I love that it does. Tom is very clean. Thank you. Yeah, we're playing at 150 BPM, I believe. So if you want to check your BPM, you can hold shift and go to song. 148 BPM is where we're at. And that will let me control the tempo right here. So we could turn it up if we want. You can just go to song here and just go like that. And turn it up here. You want to see what it's like at 200 BPM? That's my other song, and you can hear that the compressor is doing way too much work. We don't want it to do any work. With all I did a bunch of adjustments based on that last pattern that don't fit with my previous pattern, especially since I had the volume turned up. It sounds weird now, but Indie randomization or chance capabilities? Yeah, there sure is. So you can randomize your input as well. So we can go to fill and we can choose random right here. And this will randomize what fills these lanes. And then I believe that there is actually also, let me get out of the fill section. Wait, I want to preview this. I think I can randomize some stuff here. Let's go to FX2, randomize instrument, randomize note, randomize effects value, randomize volume. Yeah, so there is all of that randomization. And then let me see if there's like some, oh, there's slides. Oh, I didn't even know there was slides. Well, that's awesome. Slide up and slide down. And then the MIDI CC is kind of like the Syntacct. If you're familiar with the Syntacct, you can just use you know, a MIDI instrument to take over one of your tracks. This works on a per step basis, so it's actually a little bit more flexible than the Syntacct is in that regard. But same idea. You have to sacrifice a step to control the MIDI. On the Syntacct, you sacrifice a track. But yeah, that's your randomization, effects, volume, instrument, and note. If you had an effect on the previous effects lane, it should randomize that effect. So if you want to have different reverb send or delay send, it would be able to randomize that. And the random note, of course, is really useful. Now, I do think that there is scales. Oh, my bad. So let me show you those again. So the randomization, you guys were looking at my head. Here's the randomization, random note, random instrument, random effects value, random volume. Those are going to be your random chances in the sequencer itself. In your fill function, you also have random that you can do based on random instrument, and we have random that we can do on the random notes, and random effects values for both effects lanes. So lots and lots and lots of random generation. But then on the sequencer side, these randomization features here all are going to be random on a per step basis. So it's a little bit different. That's a fill random. This is a playback random. So this might be what you were talking about with the playback random. But yeah, it does have all those features. I don't think it has like the play once, don't play once thing that you'll find in the Polyend Play. But it has the other randomization features. There was one thing I wanted to check and see that it could do, and it just left my mind. There was something really cool. Oh, let me see. Let's go into config. Let's take a look at the config. Yes, this is it. Pad scale. Okay, so we can actually change the scale of the pads. Look at all the different scales that we have. I mean, it's too many. Even they just said, we're just going to put them all in there, and they did. So there's lots of scales to choose from. This way you can very easily generate beautiful sounding music. Like we could go into it, just put a minor scale in, and the pad's root note is on C3, and the pad's layout is a 12 note layout, so that's what you get, 12 pads here. Anti-aliasing is on, thank goodness, and that looks good. Anything else I want to look at that's cool in here to talk about? You can change the way that the whole display is. So you can change the theme, which is nice. It's a monochrome theme. Looks like that. Much easier for you to read on camera. I think we'll keep it like this for the rest of the stream. You have your display brightness, your radio region, fun stuff. You can change the font. You can also change the way that the actual arranger looks. Check this out. So we can go over here and go to horizontal. And now we're looking at it like this. I don't know about you. That's harder for me to understand. I prefer the vertical look. This is more like looking at a bunch of classic sequencer lanes. So for people who are just like can't handle the vertical thing, that this would work for them. But for me, I'd rather see it top down because I'm used to trackers. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back to vertical. And these settings aren't fun to look at like the other ones, so we'll get out of there. But there's lots of great settings that you would expect in your Groovebox. I actually really like this monochrome look. Probably going to keep it this way forever. So I did select a scale. So now my instrument should be in that scale. Let's select an instrument, like a plucky instrument or something. Here we go. Let's go to note mode. So it's playing everything in C minor now. Let's see what happens when we fill it this way. Let's fill it with notes. Here we go. Fill it with scale, minor scale. Nope. Hey, go back up. Minor, scale, random from C2 to C4. We are in C minor. 50% density seems fine. All right. Fill. Oh, we got to have our selection. Dang it. My bad. My bad. Shift home to get back up to the top. Shift up to select everything. Go back to fill, hit fill, and there we go. And I'm going to mute these other tracks so we can hear what we generated with our random quantized note input with these little plucks. So shift, mute, 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 mute. We're on track 6. We'll leave track 6 unmuted. It's going a little fast. That's right, I went 213. How cool is that? Come on. That's cool. So easy. You just go in and just make some adjustments to have it sound how you want. I don't even know if I want to adjust it because I actually like it. Kind of got lost in the sauce there. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Usually means that I'm enjoying myself. So this is the Polyend Tracker by Polyend. It is a lot of fun. We do have them in stock here at Patchwerks if you're interested in picking one up. We do have a used one available right now at a very nice discount. So if you're looking to grab yourself a tracker and you want to get into this workflow, which is one of my favorite workflows, I have several trackers. I think I have about 4 different kinds of trackers, and I enjoy all of them very much. This is my Polyend Tracker, so I own one myself, so I do like them. And yeah, I do recommend it. I think it's a blast, and I only just scratched the surface in terms of what you can hope to accomplish on the Polyend Tracker. We do have some events coming up. We have...
Just to correct you there, we do not have a used one. We have an open box.
Oh, sorry. It's an open box. Even better. So it is a brand new one that somebody... that we opened probably for a demo. We do have a showroom session coming up on February 18th. This is at 3 p.m. Showroom sessions are events that we put on live here at Patchwerks in our beautiful showroom, which has tons of fantastic instruments for you to come and try out. All of your favorite large keyboard synths, huge modular setup, everything you could possibly want to play with. We have it here in the showroom, and you should come down and check it out. And that's going to be at 3 o'clock on February 18th. Do you have the artists on there?
I only know that Carl will be performing.
One of our esteemed colleagues, Carl, will be performing here under the name Lark, which is Carl backwards. And it's going to be awesome. He's a great musician. He'll be performing with his guitar and some Chase Bliss pedals and some other instruments, I believe. And I've heard some of it, and it sounds really cool. Or I've heard him play with those instruments, and it sounds really cool. He's very good at them. So come on down and check it out. There will also be a show this month at the 4Bs called Mod Bang, and there'll be 4 performers playing that show. I'll be playing that. I go under the name EZBOT. So I'll be playing. Another artist named Matthew Allen will be playing. Shoye will be playing, another great producer. And lastly, we'll have Peyton, who is another colleague of ours here at Patchwerks. Will be closing the show out. So pretty exciting. Come on down to the 4Bs in Fremont and check that out. It is a free show. 21 and over, doors at 7. Hope to see you there. Again, I'm Matthew from Patchwerks. I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock. God willing. Take care.